And we are taking good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Mick Ruby and Mufc Realist TV with yet another podcast with my scintillating guest, Paul White. How you doing, Paul?
I'm not doing too bad. How's yourself?
Not too bad, actually. To be honest, it's for some people it's morning, some people it's afternoon, but we have a jam-packed show to unpack today because we're definitely coming to the end of the crescendo, aren't we, Paul? It's been a hot minute since we
Oh,
spoke last.
been a while. I thought that it would be all done by now, but obviously people had other
7 months.
ideas.
I'm tired, Paul. How about you?
I'm all right. A little
Yeah.
bit tired.
Listen, for everyone that's watching, big up to all of you around the world. Just take a sip on your choice of beverage. I'm having coffee to energize myself. Some people have some other drinks. I don't know what you're drinking, Paul, but
Nothing at the moment.
nothing at the moment. Usually you have something sweet. But guys, we'll be back in 10 seconds. So hold your coffees or whatever you're holding. So see you in a bit.
Has the Premier League ever been more challenging?
Right, wel. Ik u welkom. Dit is mijn home and I want to achieve success. Okay?
And Paul, this is always what I'm saying. Looking at Ten Hag wants to achieve success, but it hasn't been a straightforward path to the takeover. It's been 7 months in the process. It's been the far easy for me to say the most complicated mergers and acquisition that I ever seen. There's been a lot of twists and turns, but of course I haven't spoken to you for a long time. You've been doing your thing, your investigation, and talking to a lot of people. Well, at the same time, I'm being also doing, but it's great to sort of finally get together again since the last podcast. So for me, it's just me interviewing you at the moment. So how are you doing? First and foremost, how are you? Are you all right?
Oh, my
Are
legs are
you,
killing me from the weekend.
oh,
Absolutely
you did
killing
some
me.
charity.
Yeah, sore legs. Sore legs.
Sore legs, but not sore head, huh?
No, not yet. My champagne is
You're
still on ice at the moment.
You're brilliant. You're brilliant. We have a lot of people tuning in as well. Like, I want to go to the community as well. So there's a lot of people in the house. Jonathan Liljenberg from Sweden, Fatty, Skinny Fatty from, I don't know, John Hutchison, Jamie Wayne, one of our moderators as well. Guys, please moderate as well. Ronak Joshi, Jarvis Cocker is in the house, Angie, Sabuta, Darren Young, a lot of people that's in the house. Keep it coming. But guys, I wanted to sort of try to focus as much as I can since it's been a minute since I had Paul on as the podcast. So please, if you do have any Q&As, leave it, keep discussion with yourself. As said, we will not try to read as we go because we have a lot of things to uncover. So if you want to have says, please donate with a super chat, something we'll try to read it out as we go. Are you ready? Let's go. So, Paul, where have you been and what have you accomplished so far? Like, what have you heard? There's been a lot of things going on over the weekend. Obviously, we've seen some contradictory reports. Press has been shooting themselves in the foot, while we at our end has been, doing far more digging in terms of journalistic work. So, what can we take away from what we've been hearing, and where do we stand today? Because there's been some whispers coming from Qatari side, starting to talk. There's been some form of celebrations, saying that this is almost done and dusted from Qatari side. But what's your take on this, Paul? Like, I'm very interested to hear about your side and from a financial standpoint.
Well, it's been a bit of a weird one. You have the rumors, you have the whispers, but you conflate them with the information that the media is basically getting. So I think where the point we stand at is you had two camps that were very confident. You have the Ineos side of the camp very confident because they've been doing a lot of work with the Rain Group because, as I've said before, their deal where you're keeping a certain percentage in the stock market or in the Glazer's hand on the stock market is a very complicated deal to do. So
Mm-hmm.
there's so many if, buts, and maybes and legal frameworks that you have to go over. So Sir Jim has been confident enough talking to Ineos. That's been made clear. Then you started to get the revelations coming out last week before the week before that Sheikh Jassim's 92 Foundation have decided not to go through the Rain Group matter,
Yes.
gone straight to the Glazers and have
Straight.
been discussing a price with the Glazers, finding out from the horse's mouth, look, what do we have to offer? Are you looking to do a full sale? Or are you looking to stay on in some capacity? If it is staying on in some capacity, then we're not going to be interested. The preferred bidder noise came out about Sir Jim, and everybody was going, he seems to be the preferred bidder. He could enter an exclusivity period. That's 3 weeks old now. He hasn't entered any type of exclusivity period. So clearly the Glazers have left the door open for a Tanny and the 9-2 Foundation to put more money on the table. Going off what Mike Keegan has said, it looks like he has put money on the table, and now the Glazers are now down to the decision: do we take the money now, or do we take the money maybe in 3 years' time, possibly longer, and possibly not as much as we originally thought we'd be going to get? So that's where we're sitting at the moment. Again, it's down to the Glazers now to decide.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting what you're saying there, because I've been doing a lot of reporting on what the media's props and smoke screens are, and it's been always clear and obvious that the majority of the leaks coming out to the press is coming from the Ineos side to sort of prop themselves up to say we've been the preferred bidder. But on the other hand, you haven't heard much from 9-2 Holdings Foundations and SheikhJassim's side, and there's been even people trying to smear campaign to say, well, we don't even know if he's a real person or not. But rest assured, when you are handling those kind of mergers and acquisitions, especially within that region in the Middle East, you employ the best-in-class people to do all the negotiations, the financial experts, because it's a very complicated deal. So there's no point of you to be the front face unless you have to. But you employ the best people, and they report back to you on a weekly basis, where you say, well, where are we not? What are we going to do? Sort of thing. So, and for me, it's been a lot of media catching up in terms of what we've been sort of doing the forensic investigation, finding out certain information, and following the money. That's what it is at the end of the day, right? There was also Paul. So there was also this legal ramifications that I want to talk to you about as well, regarding the challenge of the Class A or Class B shares, from the minority investors. So I've sort of explained myself in a podcast, but I want to hear your take on that as well, because what we said in an earlier podcast is that if that was the case, if Ineos was the preferred bid, why until now did not Glazers accept it? So they left the door open by, according to my opinion, to allow some of the Glazers to stay means that it will just be a facelift shape over that. You have Ineos as a front face, but the Glazers still operating in the backside because they own the B shares, and B shares gives you 10 more voting power. So, and I think that was kind of found out by the minority investors, and you saw articles in the press as well that will challenge legal ramifications, even if they push through with this, with Ineos and the Glazers. So what's your thought process regarding that?
Well, you see, first of all, people need to understand this is wouldn't be a legal challenge to block the sale. What it would be under the Cayman Island law of a legal challenge by the minority shareholders that they were not involved in the discussions, and they do not have the same chance to sell their A-class shares at a higher premium price. The Glazers could argue that they're selling their B shares at a higher premium price because they're controlling preferred shares. Yes, that works out in theory if you're selling all 69% of them. But if you go to sell less than 69% of them, then you have a problem because you are having to convert them into A shares.
A shares, yeah.
Now, if you go by what Keegan said at the weekend, he said Sir Jim's bid is at 60%. That is the only way to get around it, because once you buy them B-class shares at 60%, they convert then into A-class shares. But all the Glazer shares after that, because it's below the 10% mark, all converts into A-class shares.
Yes,
that way works out legally. If you were to do it the original way, which was to buy the 51%, the Glazers, first of all, would have to convert their shares. So they have to convert their shares from B shares to A shares. So Sir Jim has the control. At that point, the same deal needs to be offered to the 31%, and the 31% are not in this discussion. So their argument is they're selling shares at a massive premium without allowing us to sell our shares at the same rate. You can be challenged at that in court. The Glazers can be sued about that in court and have to pay a massive repetition to the 31%. Basically, what the 31% would say is, well, as our moolah in this situation, you're going to have to give us a percentage of what you've sold your shares for to balance it off. Now, the question is, would that have a legal leg to stand on? Debatable. Is there massive lawyer fees, court fees, and a payout probable in that? Yes. But the
Yes.
Glazers aren't wanting to go down that route because that could go on to courts for ages and ages and ages, and the Glazers could be wasting millions of pounds fighting that court action because each individual hedge fund owner that owns over 5% of the company, and I believe there's 4 of them, can put their own case in. Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
all together. They can run 4 individual
Lindsay
cases
Train,
against them.
Bowen Group, and there's two more as well. Yeah.
Areas, I think it is, or
Areas,
Aries.
yeah.
So they can all put their claims in because they have over 5% of the company shares, and then it becomes a messy court battle. So yeah, that's the complicated one, and it's hence why I think a lot of reporters have said it. The Financial Times have brought it out. A quick and clean deal is preferable to the Glazers that
Yeah.
has a monetary attachment. So if Otani has either matched Sir Jim's funding in the ballpark, you're talking maybe within 100 million, 200 million, it's easier just to do a deal with him. In the simple
Yeah.
form of it, it's a lot easier deal to do. It's the more preference to the advisors, but then again, we are dealing with the Glazers, so
Yeah.
I could give all the reasoning of why you go with Altani, and the Glazers could just be the dumb idiots they are and go for the complicated deal and mess themselves up years on down the line.
But I think it was more of a astute move from some night two holding to say, like, look, we don't know what the figure is, what we are bidding at. It's like you calling the bluff, like, you're playing Texas Hold'em, right? You don't know what you're sitting with, like. So they basically had enough, went around what you said, they went around the corner straight to the horse's mouth to say, what is the figure that you want? Tell us. So at the end of the day, like, they had enough of Rain Group as well, that's been part of this sales process, to say, look, you know what, you will profit anyway, like, in terms of this sales process. We would just want to know what is the final price, and we will offer it. And for me, at the end of the day, like, if you look at the overall shadow bidding process, it's been just one agenda after another, from media, from sports washing, from greenwashing, from smear campaigning. It's just getting sickening to the point that you just want to have a conclusion, like, because one thing about the Altani is saying, we are concerned because we want to move in the transfer market. The window is opening soon. We want to know, like, we don't want this to linger on. Hence, they put the foot down and say, look, this is our last and final offer. Take it or leave it. It's a premium that I believe is kind of blowing everyone out of the water, because it's the cleanest offer, the easiest transaction out, instead of dithering with the legal ramifications backwards and forwards. And so what I understood from yesterday, there's been some celebrations going on, but I'm saying that I keep my powder dry. Like, it's like a market. You can say that it's a verbally done deal, but it's not really a done deal till you actually have the overall how do you say, this statement and holding up some shirts. Most people know in the transfer market. So I'm just treading with cautious, and in terms of, but I've been saying that for the past weeks that majority of the roads leads to Doha, and for simple reason that the cleanest transaction and what's been going on and offered, like,
easiest way to get the money and to get the money is these. It's also one of the other things I want to bring in, because what we've heard for the last 3 weeks from the media and from a lot of people that within their very rights do not want a state ownership and control of United. I have nothing against that. That is your own personal feeling. But the fact that they've been trying to claim that Sir Jim for the last 3 weeks has done a masterstroke of business deals, he's outsmarted the Altani family, blah, blah, black sheep, and nobody has clearly either pointed out one of the big glaring, shall we say, what's the terminology, the elephant in the room, is if the 9-2 Foundation get the company for about the same valuation of what Sir Jim is offering, the 9-2 Foundation have bought United for just about £5 billion, when everybody in the world was saying they want 6. You have 6. Why have you not paid the money? They've just paid basically £1 billion less than the asking price for an asset, and not the valuation, the actual asking price. And they've done it while competing with somebody else that's actually valued the company more than them. So if anyway, the Thai business people have, one, called the Glazers bluff, said, you're not going to sell it to the highest bidder. You're going to sell the person that gets closest to 6 billion. You're going to sell it for whoever's giving you the most money. And because of the way you've done this structure and this bid, you've alienated a lot of other bidders to
Yes,
potentially
true.
come in.
True.
The way you've set up the company has made it almost near enough nigh impossible to bring in a minority investor into the company without you having to do massive risks, as in basically pitting your own shares up as collateral for pennies on the dollars. So you've shot yourselves in the foot to create any type of tension. If he gets this company for 5.1, 5.2 billion pounds and beats Sir Jim at the same time, you have to take your hats off to his team, because he has the ability to bid 6 and he hasn't had to do it. And
That's
until this process is done, we can't say who's pulled off the master stroke. Was it Sir Jim with his setup and structure, or was it Otani reading the room, reading the financials, knowing what the Glazers' financials are, and going, these guys need to sell. I don't need to overpay.
true. That is like you selling an apple, right? And I'm coming to you. I have 10 quid in my pocket, right? I know that the apple is worth two quid, right? But you selling it for, you want 4 quid. But you, on the other hand, know that I have 10 quid in my pocket and you want that full 10 quid in my pocket, right? Correct? It's the most expensive apple you can do. So the lengthy process is always been to, according to my opinion, this process has been designed to pull in the biggest shark that you can find. And as I said, as soon as Qatar entered, that was a game changer, right? Because you had a lot of investors that were looking at that evaluation to buy the club for 2.7. You know, a lot of people came, minority investors looked under the hood, and it just came down to everyone fell off because this process was simply designed to get as much money as possible. And who do you have, right? You have Qatar, which is, some media is saying state-backed, human rights issues. But on the other hand, you got to look at, where is the stadium? Which country is this business going to be operating in? It's UK laws, right? So that falls out the window, what the media is reporting, right? You know, you still have the rainbow movement or LGBTQ and all that stuff. It's still valid, right? So it's not that the club is going to be taken away and it's going to be played in Qatar, in their home ground. So no, they're just investors into the club. They're just the owners, but they have to adhere to British law, British business law, and all that stuff, including the Premier League. And so that is what we have to bring in and call out the bluff as well. Like, you know, for certain reason, you know, media has been creating that agenda because, you know, anything else, they're fine with Abu Dhabi to be owned city, Newcastle to be owning by Saudi.
Yeah.
But when basically for Manchester United to be taken over by money at the moment is an existential threat, because we are top 4 club side, right? You just have to look at when City was bought up, when they were sitting in the league table, 17th. I think it was back in 2007, right? And also Newcastle, they were like lingering at the bottom corner, but with the right foundation, right structure, right vision and plan, they are now up in the top 4. But then you can imagine why people are thinking that, hang on a second, Manchester United already is the top 4 side. They're getting money. They get a proper vision, strategy. They're going to be like, you know, back, and they don't want that, right? So that's why you've seen like a lot of Premier League clubs challenging. Some media has been challenging as well, because at the end of the day, it's self-entitlement, Paul, right? You know, you've been selling a lot of magazines and clicks and papers. You've been getting a lot of leaks from, you know, certain club officials that you establish of the 18 years of relationships, and all of a sudden you're fearing that that business lifeline is going to go away with the new ownership. Because if there's a new ownership coming in, there's going to be a restructuring. Of course, anything above Erik ten Hag is going to be a restructuring. So, I mean, I do applaud, like, you know, what City has done with the Sheikh Mansour. They build a proper football operation, but I don't applaud in terms of the 150 charges allegation in inflating the.
It's not what they built, it's how they built it.
How they
That
built
is the
it.
big difference. Yeah.
That's the impressive thing.
Talking about sporting structures, and that also brings in another point that not a lot of people seem to talk about or bring up as well, is with the Glazers themselves. Besides the certain other Glazers, the 4, even the 4, actually, you can include them into it. Besides, I think it's only 2 of them aren't involved. But the Joel, Avram, Brian, and Darcy's main interest outside of, I say main interest, main investments outside of United are currently football clubs, cricket clubs, and a
Yeah.
basketball team they want to bring in. And they're looking
Oh,
partners to team up with these.
Yeah.
These partners are probably paying very close to this sale as well. And what they're looking at right now is what decision is the Glazers going to make that betterments not only themselves but the asset they're leaving behind? Because the
Yeah.
last thing an investor wants to go into, say for argument's sake, I'm an investor, I'm looking to go in with the Glazers for their New Vegas basketball team, I think it is, and I'm looking at them and I'm going, okay, so you had two deals on the table that are very similar, but you took the deal that was going to get you a couple of 100 million more rather than the
Of course.
deal that was going to leave United in a better position, as in one of them has said that I'm going to be giving you the club £1 billion and clearing all the debts. I'm going to make the club financially secure. An investor into another sporting enterprise with the Glazers is going to look at that situation and goes, so you're telling me 10 years down the line, you may leave me in a situation with another really bad business partner when you decide to sell and not do what's best for the club. Sports business and normal business work in two different ways. A sports partner is not going to go in with you in a sports club if they know you're just going to screw them over for money in the future and not care about the asset.
True.
So there is them dynamics in when it comes to business dealings because, as I say, sports business dealings work a lot different than business ones. Business, it's all about the money. When it comes to sport, especially when it's American sport, it's about what can you do best for that franchise. And if you've shown a track record that you're ready to pull the plug on a franchise and leave it in a worse position, investors aren't going to deal with you.
They're not, and it's leading me to another. Thank you for waking up my thoughts there, because we spoke about calling the bluff. Now, if you look at the Glazers' financial situation, I mean, Darcy and Joel are deeply invested with the Buccaneers, Tampa Buccaneers. 100%. Darcy is more into Buccaneers than she will ever be with United. She doesn't really care about United. It's Avram and Joel that cares a little bit about United in certain ways, but the priority has been Malcolm Glazer bought the Buccaneers. I think it was, when was it? Not a long time ago, but he's bought it on debt, similar leverage as well. And that has also risen in debt, right? Same business model as he purchased Manchester United. So there's a financial reason where you can call out the bluff to say, listen, your finances needs to be straightened out. You will have the biggest financial crisis, credit crisis. The banks need the money back, right? The credit line that we borrowed you needs to come back, right? Until 24, 25, right? And we're living in the biggest crisis that we ever seen since 2008. So even if Bank of America is kind of classed as a bank that cannot fall, there's a certain listed that cannot fall, they're not allowed to fall, they still need to recoup the money. That's the thing. So they basically run themselves down the road to the end of the road, like a T-junction. There's no way out. And you can drive this negotiation as far as you can. But at the end of the day, the bluff's been called out to say, look, you need money. You need to solve your situations. We know that Darcy, Brian and all that, they want to invest in other ventures and opportunities. As I always say, 4 elephants is heavier than 2 ants. So you have 6 siblings quarreling. It's like sharing a cake, a birthday cake, and you should have equal slices. Otherwise, you will have. So that's been kind of the majority of what I understood, the argument. But, if you do simple mathematics, 4 elephants is heavier than 2 ants. So it's come down to a full sale only, and everyone will cut cash away, because that's Glazenomics, right?
It's the quickest and cleanest thing to do.
Yeah.
Because even the other 4 Glazers understand to a certain point, even if they allow Joel and Avram to stay on, that's not going to shield them. They're still going to get protested against by the United fans. But just because they've sold doesn't mean we're not going to go. We're still going to attack you online. We're still going to protest.
Just to add on to adding on extra pledge on investments doesn't really bother Glazers. All they care about, how much money will I get on the earnout on my assets and shares, right?
Doesn't bother them in a sense of what they're getting out of it, but as I say, their main interest that they're looking to invest in is in other sporting endeavors, and it will affect them in negotiations, because what they'll look at is, you took an extra, say they take the higher valuation for Sir Jim is maybe 100 million higher, slightly higher. That 100 million split between 6 people, not even equally, a couple of tens of million. Another business partner will be looking, you took an extra $15 million out of a deal that you were getting basically over $1 billion each almost. You took an extra $15 billion rather than taking the deal that was better for the sporting asset. yes, a lot of American sporting people do not care about football, but what they care about, a lot of these people that go into basketball, go into baseball, go
True.
into the American football, one thing they care about is sport. They generally
Sport.
care about sport. And if
They
they're
do.
looking at a business partner that is only interested in the money and not the application of the sport, no matter what sport it is, they're going to be a bit tentative about doing it because they do care about sport in a sense. Yes, most of
Yeah.
them that own NFL teams are billionaires, but
Yeah. No, no.
you could see the pride of them owners when their team wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we saw
When
that.
I don't know what the difference. I don't watch NBA or the All Stars in American baseball or anything like that, so I don't know what the equivalent is. But they love sports. They love
They do.
American sport, and one thing they're going to look at is go.
But they don't
These
love
guys,
Manchester United.
no, they don't. But well, that's what I'm going to say. But they will look at it and go, you took one of the most successful football clubs, you ran it into the ground, you had the opportunity to repair the damage you have done,
In
and you
jiu-jitsu.
still went after the money. A lot of people will not go into sporting business with them if they know that's that type of person.
Yeah.
It's a bit like why I say SheikhJassim was never going to go in and throw £6 billion, 6.5 billion on the table, because that makes him look like a bad business dealer. Because you're just
Yeah.
chucking money to solve it. You're not negotiating.
That's true. Because if you look at the overall how they inherited this whole thing by 2015 by default of Malcolm Glazer's death, they have not been able to run any proper business properly. Like, it's just been diabolical, right? Yes, they love sports. Yes, they want to use Manchester United as a cash cow, cash vehicle. The only reason, the logical explanation is to taking dividends out is to pay their own habits, right? To pay their own, expensive living, until it comes to the end of the road, which you cannot do that anymore, which is the board voted it down. Nope, you're not taking any more dividends. Vote of no confidence. Richard Donald, everyone signed it off. No, you cannot. You had
No, the problem was they weren't allowed to.
they were not allowed to. And then you had that indication as well that for the first time ever, you were supposed to have a board meeting, right? Shareholder meetings. That didn't happen with any of them, right? So it was basically a piece of paper released. Another thing is what we've been talking on this podcast for at least a month and a half or so is that sweetening of the deal. There's something that I'm now seeing the media is picking up as well. Well, basically, yes, it does play a important of the negotiations to say, yes, we will give you this premium. It might be $38 per share, right? And of course, all the minority, A shareholders also want to buy out 100% because everyone cashes out, walks away, including all the banks and creditors and everything. But at the end of the day, like, you got to look at the business continuation for the Glazers. And, it's came out in the press. They started to talk about it last week. And we've been saying this for the past month as well, even in some spaces that the Qataris or Altanis had offered here's a piece of land, we're going to build you an NFL stadium, you're going to have the TV broadcasting rights through beIN Sports to broadcast all your Tampa Buccaneer games, we're going to bring NFL here, plus NBA, plus other things. And that deal in terms of broadcasting rights is worth billions, right? So you got to sit there and think, hang on a second, why am I dithering about this Ratcliffe that's going to complicate things, that offering to pay half of it now, and perhaps within 3 years we insert a clause of contracts. What would be the premium to buy you out? We don't know. We don't know if that's going to be fruitful.
Plus, also then premiums have to. Plus, also
Mm.
because of the way the stock share law system works, they have to actually put them premiums on a test and balance system. So
Mm.
they either have to base them premiums on the United stock price at the current value, which, in my opinion, they wouldn't do. The only other way they can put the premium is basing it on United revenues, how much money the Glazers actually get. And if that deal has to be announced as, it has to be written as a contract. And I'm telling you right now, if the Glazers were to stay under Surgeon, United's revenues have to be over 700 million for them to get the maximum amount of money. What do you think the United fan base is going to do in that situation? They're not going to buy merchandise. They're not going to buy shirts. They're going to protest every single spot. They'll make sure United's revenues aren't over 700 million, so the Glazers get less money.
No. I mean,
that's the easiest way to do it.
I would say that they try to pull out the, now you see me, now you don't, to 3.0, right? Another heist. And this is what they try to do. But they got found out, and it's coming out even 1958 and United against the Glazers, all their movements are if you think that you're going to get away from it, it's business suicide for you as Ineos and Glazers, because if you think that the protests are allowed now, it's going to be 10 times the seismic effects, and you got to attack all the sponsorships because you have the blueprint already how to do it. If you're a Manchester United fan, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, which I don't believe you are, is what you're saying, you should read the room, right? You should not go and go into bed with the Glazers like you did. Of course, you're mates. I understand it's your twilight of your career. You want to have a legacy, but what is the actual purpose and intent? And that's what you got to look at. So basically, you're taking over. You're not clearing the debt, right? You're piling on more debt, going in bed with JP Morgan again. By the way, JP Morgan is the ones that are pushing for the Super League, if you remember. Paul, you there? You sleeping?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So
No, I'm still here.
For me, it was just complicated, and at the end of the day, I salute what the 9-2 Foundation did on Friday to say, look, enough of dithering. We believe we have the most compelling bid on the table. That means that everyone walks away, everyone profits. All the majority stakeholders, including the B shares and the A shares, it's 100% clean, one transaction. Off you go on a holiday, go invest in whatever you want. Just close off, give us the key, and so we can start planning ahead with the transfer market and our implementations. And it's come to that road, and what everyone is now talking about, that this is about to happen, Paul, right? I've been hearing it.
Is. Yeah, I think it's also the timing of it. You've got 3 weeks, 4 weeks max, 3 weeks, sorry, before the transfer window is open. You get a deal done this week with the Glazers, be it Sir Jim, be it 9-2 Foundation. Gives you then 2 weeks to submit your information to the Premier League and see when they come back with the fit and owners test. I don't think there's any problem with the fit and owners
No.
fit and proper test. The
Nope.
9-2 Foundation has been solely set up for the purchase of buying Manchester United.
Yep, you can hear the name 9-2 Foundation only.
Yeah. They're working with the Rain Group that through the Chelsea deal have worked very closely with the government and the Premier League and the fit and proper directors, the owners and directors test. They've talked to Khalifi, which is the president of UEFA, so they know the standing that they have there, what they can and cannot do with finances.
Yeah. Wasn't it weird how certain journalists pointed out straight away, since what's his name, Nasser was involved there? They said, oh, look at it, stake back. Wow. He's like, no, like, I'm Qatari. I'm speaking on the behalf of Qatari and UEFA, right?
Yeah, and he's a PSG owner. Like, it makes sense that you would talk to him. I'm pretty sure the Glazers would have maybe talked to Khalifi and said, like, what is the story behind SheikhJassim? Is he got the backing? Can you tell us, is it true? Maybe they're looking for a bit of reinsurance, because as it's being pointed out, yes, SheikhJassim has not been involved directly with negotiations. People seem to do remember, Sheikh is a prince. He is a prince of Qatar. He hires people to do the job that he thinks.
That's what
he's not going to go into the negotiation room. He is not a contract deal negotiator. He's a manager. He's an organizer. You bring the contract people in to do your contracting job. Yes, Sir Jim was involved in his side, but Sir Jim he has got an acumen for business contract negotiations. He's done it before in his time. SheikhJassim, maybe
he's
not
smart.
So much. That's not his.
He's been having a lot of lawyers on it. Yeah, he's got a lot of lawyers. You wouldn't be like, a billionaire if you were not shrewd. I think you stepped over a lot of dead bodies with that time.
Oh, he really has. He's here. To be fair, no, having a cutthroat owner is not the worst thing in the world. No. If one thing Sir Jim would be able to create deals around United, I wouldn't have any problem with that. He's very cutthroat with it, but we can see his progress at Nice. But over just purely in the takeover manner, it's still up in the air in my eyes. I've heard a lot of book murmurings from people that are from the Qatari side, work with certain organizations in Qatar, have spoken a lot of things that they feel it's going on, and I've also heard the other side from the NEL side as well. So you can't believe what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
You can't believe one and choose not to believe the other. Both sources are very similar in statute, and both sources are very similar in what they're saying. So I think this is just down to basically the way the Glazers have handled this whole process. Neither one of the bidders may not know the outcome. One of them may not know the outcome, and one of them may not know the outcome.
But either way,
this
has
this
been.
week. It
Oh yeah,
has to.
it will be. According to my opinion, it will be. And I mean, you've been looking closely on the Ineos side, and you've been following that. I've been looking at both and trying to stay sane and trying to provide people with some clarity in terms of educational purpose, logic, reasoning. At the end of the day, when it comes down to where we are now, I would say I don't have what people say in the ether or in the socials. I don't have a Scooby-Doo when it will be. Nobody knows. Only the Glazers knows. The way it's going to work, it's going to probably. I mean, what gets me is that media is playing catch up. They're backtracking in their stories and think we are not paying attention. They're now going to say, like you're saying, that oh yeah, they're going to be a decision on the exclusivity bidder. But hang on, both SheikhJassim and Ineos has been the exclusivity bidder at the same time, bidding out each other. So you got that wrong. They're going to say like, oh, they're going to be announcement who the preferred bid will be. No, it's going to be an announcement who the preferred owner will be. Winner.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
And
I said this weeks ago. I said after the third or fourth round of bidding, I can't remember now. There's been that many rounds. After the last round of bidding, I said if there wasn't a decision within 2 weeks of an exclusive bidder, what you would probably find is they do two preferred bidders. The reason they're called two preferred bidders is the terminology, because generally in this situation you would have maybe 5 or 6 bidders.
Yeah. But it's just to create a competitive tension.
So there'd be two preferred bidders. Yeah, it's to create the competitive tension. The Glazers
100%.
they've done all the checks. They've done the exclusivity. There's not a lot of exclusivity talks you need to have, because I've explained this to other people before, is all the financial information for Manchester United is out in the open. There's not that lot of background information to Manchester United, just the first future earnings reports, how the sporting project's going. There's not skeletons you can hide in the closet, basically, because of the fact that Manchester United PLC have to report to UEFA, they have to report to FIFA, and the FA and the Premier League for financial fair play. They also have to report earnings to the New York Stock Exchange. Everything is out in the open. So there's not a lot to sit in an exclusivity period.
Yeah.
You've got two bidders that haven't hit your valuation. You pit them against each other and see who blinks first. Evidently,
100%.
both of them, I think, have called the Glazers bluff, and they're waiting to see now if the Glazers blink first.
That's what I was saying, because at the end of the day, it was like playing poker. They know the financial situation, what the Glazer family is in, right? And at the end of the day, they try to play each other out. 92 Foundation or some, let's say SheikhJassim had enough of it. Went round directly under the corner, put his foot down and say, what is that the money that you want? Here's the money on the table. That's it. We're not going to engage anymore. Make a decision now. And that's what we're at. I think that Ineos has been tried every single possibility, because they're not cash rich, they're asset rich, and they cannot really afford. One thing is to buy United, but how are you going to sort of continue? Like you're not going to clear the debt. The shareholders of Ineos is not going to accept you to pile up the debt on Ineos itself. You know what I mean?
Well, no, that's actually not technically true. They would allow the debt to be piled up. Ineos makes billions and billions of acquisitions based on debt every so many years. Also, the other thing is, I don't think Sir Jim really played that much of a blinder of what everybody's making out to be. All he did was say, look, here's my valuation for the 69%. I can go to a higher valuation if you want to keep a certain percentage in the background. And what he's done is, it's a very smart move in the sense of he's left the interpretation of how much of the share he actually is buying and how many of the Glazers and what percentage they're staying on. He's left it for them to discuss.
True.
And
because he basically,
it's like, if I say, okay, I'm going to buy the house off you, but I'm only going to be able to pay you out of the £100,000 value. I'm only
Yeah.
going to be able to pay you 60,000 of it. Tell you what, you work out what you want to do with the other 40,000. When you want me to pay it off? Do you want a premium on top of that? So basically, you're creating your own part of the deal as the
Yeah.
seller. You're
100%.
creating part of the buyer's deal. So it's an old tactic. If you make somebody create half of your contract, they're going to be happy with the whole contract because they've created half of it. So
Yeah. Listen,
the problem was money was always going to trump it in the
it
end.
was, and you raise a valid point to refresh my memory as well, because Ineos or Ratcliffe never increased the bid whatsoever. They always did this. They put one bid in evaluation and let that sort of sink in with the Glazers and Rain Group to dither and discuss. All he did was some adjustments in terms of the parameters. Okay, we leave you with 20%, 18%, now 60%, whatever, just confusing them. So basically what he left is for them to figure out, right? And this was dragging it out, So that's why I was saying, if this was always the preferred bidder, what the media is saying, that they were going with the Ineos, why didn't go with Ineos like weeks ago, months ago? Because it's been going on for far too long. For me, it was just a process to design, to see, let's see how much money we can squeeze out for the biggest cash-rich country in the world that has cash, not just assets, and that is...
Yeah, it's also another way to the other way to look at it as well is
I was waiting for you to reply on my question, and that is
sorry.
Qatar,
Well, yeah,
but which is not
other way you
state-backed
can
anyway.
I do think the thing about it is people need to think that is going to be state funded in a way, but it's not going to be state controlled. Very different
No.
between being state backed and state controlled.
Yeah, but you got to look at 92 Holdings is consisting QIE Bank. It consists a lot of conglomerates.
Yeah,
that's
but
part of
the
this.
way the Qatari community money is, there's no way you can pump that amount of money into any kind of organization without it coming from, maybe a bit of it coming from a governmental source. But what I'm saying is that money is not going to have governmental oversight on it. It's like, okay, you want to go for it, you need the money, we'll help you fund this because this is going to be good for Qatar.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry,
not like
Paul,
you're writing out taxes.
I have to engage with the super chats here as well, because we have
bring them up.
a lot of people here. We've been sorry. We don't neglect you. It's just we are so deep into this conversation. We have over 900 people viewing right now. What I can see, this super chat coming in from Alien Tenor, one of our regulars as well, saying it must be announced by the window opening surely. Paul, we discussed this before, what Alien Tenor is saying here. So thank you so much for your donation, sir, and your question. It must be announced by the window opening surely. Yes, it has to be.
Yeah, has to be. Ten Hag needs to know. Like, even if there's not, even if the Glazers agree a deal, if they agree a deal, and they say we're going to go with Qatar, the very least the Glazers can do is turn around to the board and go, all our credit facilities, get the okay from the 9-2 Foundation and say, all our credit facilities, use them. As long as Qatar are happy with the footballing situation, and they're happy with the football team, and they're happy with the football team's targets, and they say, okay, because to be totally honest, I think that's going to be the big thing anyway, is this summer they're going to go, show us what you can do. You have the money, show us what targets you can do, show us how you negotiate, then go and get them players or Ten Hag's targets. This is a test run for them, because if they don't achieve anything, they're going to be out of the job in a season or two. These guys aren't going to sit around and go, oh, well, you did okay this year, we're going to give you another year trading. They're going to go, no, we're going to bring somebody better in. So, they could do it that way, but there has to be, I think there just has to be something this week. They have to tell one of the parties, we're going with yous, or we agree with your deal and we're just going to take yous. If it goes any longer, I think it just starts to affect the transfer window. And the other problem the Glazers have to watch out for, if the transfer window gets affected, so does the valuation of the club. If you've had to dig into your credit facilities, this time come September, you can't guarantee that then credit facilities are going to be paid off by the club's earnings next year. You're not allowed to guarantee that. They can guarantee it this year after we've gone into January, and the end of the business year happened in March. They said the rest of our the rest of our revolving credit will be paid off by the money we will generate in the last couple of months. They can't say that in September. So what will happen will be Altani and Sir Jim will go, well, you spent 250, 300 million in a credit facility. We're taking that off the money that we're paying you because that's going to have to be paid out. So if you go by the summer, you get 300 odd million pounds less. Which
yeah,
is,
but you know, the thing is, Ten Hag knows the approximately budget that he has. I mean, we've seen movements on the pre agreements. We're talking Kim Min-jae and all that stuff, right? But it surely helps because you got to clear the debt, and the FFP will reset as well with the new takeover and clearing the existing debt. So if you do that, you will have more money in the potty to go around and play. Right? I don't know who else we're going to go for a marquee signing. Typically what you will see with a new owner, Mbappe, or I don't want that, to be honest, to be fair. You know, build it
the Ten Hag ones.
Yeah, the signings the Ten Hag ones. Build it like, let's take an example like Newcastle did. Responsible building, like slowly integrating. Like, you know what, Newcastle didn't go straight away either. They've been going slowly building instead of like a city, like inflating. We have a very interesting question. Juddy Sports is saying, Mick, Hanover Communications who are working on the behalf of 9-2 Foundation have informed its staff to clear this week's schedule. Staff were informed by Sunday 9 p.m. UK time. Make that what you want to will. Yes, this is what I love about our community, because we are a global fan base all over the world. So sharing is caring, right? So that's a very valid point. I mean, there's a lot of things coming out, right? There's a lot of things that you can read. My personal opinion as a fan right now, as a person that's been doing this forensic investigation, speaking to a lot of people close to the Qatar side and try to find out as much as information and putting things together. At the end of the day, it's very time consuming, right? You get tired, right? So according to my opinion, I think this can go only one way, and I don't want to say done deal, because I'm not Fabrizio Romano to say here we go, but we can say almost here we sign, right? Here we almost sign. But the thing is that we are not here to tell you it's done deal or anything else. It's just we putting our perspective, thoughts process into mind, and at the end of the day, you know, it's beyond everyone's pay grading. It's beyond everyone's journalism pay grade, because this comes down to the Glazers announcing through Reigning Group, either through a statement. There's not going to be a preferred bidder. It's not going to be exclusivity. It's going to go straight to the keys. That's according to my opinion.
You look at the amount of groundwork they've done. There's no point of announcing an exclusivity period. They've done all the groundwork. The deals are on the table. For all we know, them deals are finalized and been submitted to the Glazers, and they're looking at which one to take. I don't think you're going to get a period of exclusivity. Also, a period of exclusivity is usually a one-to-one dealing. There's no point of doing a period of exclusivity if you're doing a 1-on-6 dealing, because you're having to deal with 6 individuals. You know, it's very, very hard to do that.
This is how beautiful this community is. Shout out to Fatty and RRS for gifting 5 memberships to each other in this community. Absolutely legends. This is all what it's all about. Building a positive community. We are, thank you guys for gifting memberships. That's so generous of you. You know what I mean? I'm speechless in a way that it's been a long journey. There's been a lot of work into this, Paul, right? Both you and me. There's people in Spaces, 1958, United Against the Glazers, everyone that's been contributing. What I'm saying, it feels a little bit surreal, because is this really finally happening, right? As a legacy fan, it's been criminal. It's almost that you have to prosecute it for what happened to our club, and what's been going on under the hood as well. And how they try to hijack it again. There's some shady deals. It is just beyond my head to see that we are going to come to a final sales takeover and we're going to get new owners, right? Again, I don't mind Sir Jim Ratcliffe or anything, but when you find out what the intent and agenda is, then when I have to put my foot down. So for people I understand that are supporting Sir Jim Ratcliffe to say, well, hang on a second, do you want the Glazers still to stay on? And do you still want to have the debt? And in that case, then what's the point of changing, right? Or you want something to clear the debt, invest in the club to make it great again, to compete for every single trophy. We just got stripped or equal a treble. The only way forward now is hand over the keys to somebody that's willing to invest to make us great again. Give the Ten Hag the players and the tools that he needs to challenge for another treble and another treble and another treble. And don't ever let City to take over our treble record. And that's my
You see,
opinion.
my problem even isn't even with the Sir Jim and the Glazers staying on, because even within the Sir Jim realms, the Glazers will go. It's not like he's getting into bed with them and they're going to be on the board of directors, or they're going to be, executives in any sense. They're only going to be there as a minority shareholder. 3 years down the line, you're gone. Problem I have with Sir Jim, and it's only been highlighted really in the last couple of months, as you look at his running of Nice, and it's been atrocious. The running
Yeah.
of Nice has been absolutely atrocious since he took
Yeah.
over the club, and it doesn't get brought up enough. One of the main things he's done at Nice is bringing his friends to help run
Yeah.
Nice. Jobs for the boys. What is one of the biggest complaints we've had about the Glazers is the jobs for the boys. Yes, Sir Jim may have sporting background, but tell me what a cycling manager knows about being a director of football of a Premier League football club.
True.
Tell me what contacts he has in the Premier League world. The differences with the Qatari bid is they don't think they know better, but they know they'll have people and advisors that know about football that they can bring in. Sir Jim will use his any sports arm to help build United, and I honestly don't like the sound of it because I've seen what he's done at Nice, and what he's done at Nice has been horrible, absolutely horrible.
Thank you, guys. Listen, Tony White's just came in here. Mick, you're the best. No BS, no clickbait. Keep up the awesome. Thank you, Tony White. I mean, we're just trying to be real, like, trying to provide you with something that media is not running with, because at the end of the day, they're only in it for themselves, to provide the, for you to click on the headlines. If you just look at it, you have to buy the subscription of certain athletic. You have to, anytime you walk into a Manchester Evening News, it's full of advertisement. It's just like dire, right? And it's clear and obvious that this has only gone one way, because everyone profits at the end of the day. Like, Positive United doesn't sell any clickbait magazines, like, but a Negative United that you've been using for the past 10 years, you generate a lot of money, right? So for me, I'm just looking for a new dawn, to keep it positive, bring positivity back to the fan base again, and bring the positivity back to football, right? Where the football is going is clear and obvious. You need to have deep pockets nowadays. That's the way, unfortunately, it's going to shape.
Well, it's not even that you don't need deep pockets to run Manchester United, to be totally fair.
No,
Our
of course
pockets
not,
are
no.
deep enough. As long as you have the pockets enough to clear our debt and allow our club to run, and you don't plan to take
But
dividends out.
I mean, if you look at the transfer market at the moment, like, the inflation rate with the transfers are, before you got to get a player for Harry Kane, 12 months left on his contract for 100 million. Come on, a Mason Mount, or they want 80 million for, right? With 12 months left on the contract. It's sheer madness, right? So it's definitely become a money game, and the new TV deals rights is coming in. So they're certainly on, you have a point that, Manchester United has a big enough fan base and operations to be sustainable, but all we need is that little bit extra support to get us up and running
for the infrastructure.
Carrington,
Guys,
guys.
the money issue really isn't us spending on the squad, because we can spend money on our squad. We've spent a load of money on our squad. We've just spent it bad. When one of your main tick boxes for when you're spending 50 plus million on a player is how marketable that player is and how much money can we make back on him. That's the instance. I know you're not running this place like a football club. When a couple of managers are telling you that this player, we need to move him on, we need to sell him because he's not good, we don't see the potential in him, but then the words come back, but the fans love him, so we'll keep him. That's when you're not running like a football club.
That's what Tony say here, and I want to leave this as well. What Tony says: if Ratcliffe really loved the club, he would stand down and give the full support to Qatari bid. He's only one person, vanity trip.
See, I don't take that as well, because maybe in his head, Sir Jim thinks he would be a great owner for Manchester United. You forget he is a Manchester-born person. He has supported Manchester United a lot of his life. If I was in Sir Jim's position, I'd be doing the exact same as a Manchester United fan. I'd be like, I think I know my club. How many football fans, how many Manchester United fans disagree on players that we play, the manager that we
But
pick?
then I don't really think that you're reading the room. Like, if you are what you are, right, you would know that this fight has been going for 18 years to get the Glazers out. Then you're not
That's the
really a
point.
fan.
He is doing it. This is people are using emotion based on this, Mick, and I have to call it out. His deal is not to buy 51% and keep the Glazers on to the end of time. His deal is I'm buying you 51% now, 3 years down the line, I'm buying the rest, then you're gone. So in his whole deal that would be legally signed, the Glazers will be gone.
Yeah.
It's just not instant. It's everybody has got their hopes up because Qataris have come into the race and they're instantly able to clear everything. Clear the Glazers out one go, clear the debt out one go, blah blah blah. Actually, but as I've said in
I
many spaces,
I have
talking to many
I have
people,
one chat from one of our members here saying this. You love this one because I know you're following this. U.S. market opens soon. Let's see if it's announced today. I know that you are the first
generally
one that
that
will go and
yeah,
go and have a look
generally
today.
that would have been announced before the stock market would be open. They
Yeah.
generally don't do big things. But as I was saying, if we go back 12 months ago and say this, we go back 12 months, end of the season, say start of March, and a newspaper report came out and says Sir Jim is buying 51% of a controlling stake in Manchester United and the Glazers will be gone in 3 years. Everybody would be celebrating, popping the champagne and everything. The thing is, there's a better offer on the table now with Qatar, but it doesn't diminish the fact that Sir Jim would still be clearing the Glazers
Yeah.
out. It's just not as quick as the Qataris. It's almost like every football thing. Everything is always reactionary and it needs to be instant. When a new player
True.
comes in, he's not given time. When a new manager comes in, they're not given time.
True.
It's too reactionary. You have to put your logic hat on. His deal is not keeping the Glazers. His deal is buying the Glazers out. So,
Yeah.
as I said, if there was no Middle Eastern country, state, person, billionaire rich that has the money that the 9-2 Foundation has, anybody buying United would have bought them out this way, where we
Yeah.
buy a controlling stake now at 51%. It means you have no control, you can't take dividends, you're not associated in the club in any way besides being a minority stakeholder, and then we'll buy
Mm.
you out 3 years down the line. Everybody would have been doing that deal because that's just the
Excellent. Yeah,
business
I
deal.
agree. I agree. Just going what Crunk King is saying, and this is absolutely spot on. Keep your powder dry. That's all you need. Keep calm. Keep your powder dry.
Just
See
to let
what will
everybody
come.
know as well. So one thing, because everybody's getting excited, stock market doesn't actually open for another half an hour. It's 9:30, not 9 o'clock.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Sally,
There's another half
big
an
up.
hour to go, guys.
Hmm. Sally here, Sir Jean Ratcliffe keeping Glazers for one moment longer is no for me. Under his tenure, we have no idea where the club will be. 100%, 100%. Because at the end of the day, like, you can do pulse surveys, you can do everything, and there's one thing what most fans want: clear the debt, make us great again, build a new infrastructure, refurbish, Old Trafford or whatever your plan is, but never
There's a
ever
question
put us
down
in
there.
the
There's a
which one?
question down there. How do we know that Sir Jim would remove the Glazers in 3 years? Never confirmed. The only way that they can possibly get buy them shares for over market value if they have a pre-agreement in place to buy them shares. So if Sir Jim doesn't buy that extra, say it's 18% in 3 years' time, he would then they would only be able, they only be at stock market value. So for the Glazers to get the premium amount of money for them shares, they have to agree to sell them shares in 3 years' time in a premium. There's
Yeah.
no way around it. So
Joe, yeah.
So basically, what will happen? Say if Sir Jim is buying the shares at $30 a share now, and he says to the Glazers, in 3 years, I'll give you that $30 a share, probably a 5% premium. They agree to that. If the Sir Jim doesn't do that and just say, look, you can just keep the shares, the Glazers' share value then drops from 30% down to whatever the market value says. So it's the only way you can agree a premium on the shares if you agree to sell in 3 years. So with that deal, they'll have to be bought out. And also, There would no point of the Glazers doing that deal unless they were going to be bought out at a premium down the line. They're not just going to shell their controlling stake in Manchester United and then hope that 18% shares that they keep won't trade at $20 a share. It'll be trading up over 30. So just in a business sense, you can almost guarantee under Sergio's deal that they will be bought out.
True. Just conscious of time. There's been so many people in the chat room. We're not neglecting you. We have so much things to unpack. I'm just trying to show SheikhJassim is wiping out all the debts, injecting extra 1 billion for the community, while Ratcliffe borrowing about to buy 51% of the shares. True, and keeping the Glazers. Don't know about you guys. I'm with Sheikh 100%. Yeah, I am
definitely.
Definitely, you're
He's 100%. He's 100% the best option. But what I'm saying is, people are attacking Sir Jim and his option because it's not as good as the Qataris. But at the end of the day, at least he's trying to get the Glazers out. You know, you have to tip your hat off to the man. The man.
That's it.
He put his balls on the table, if I can say that, and said, "I want to buy Manchester United." How many other people have said that?
True. So basically what I want to finish off this podcast with, and finally, hopefully it's the final podcast that we, not that I don't want to see you, Paul. I really like to see you. I really like to talk to you, but I'm super busy as well. So let's finish on that note. What I also wanted to say that any bidder that's been bidding for Manchester United, this sales process has been a good bidder, according to my opinion, because it's always been for us to get the Glazers out, for 18 years. As a community, in order to be treated as a football club again, not a business, not a cash cow, that has always been the main objective of this channel as well, So please, I don't know how many people have smashed the like on this video. We are not like the Glazers. We don't take dividends out. Some people have been super chatting. Thank you so much for the donation because it takes a lot of time. But the only dividends we take is your likings. Like, if you click the like, that helps the community and the message to come out even stronger. So jokes aside, we don't take the dividends out, but it will only take you burning extra few calories to pressing that button. And you might, if you're on diet, it might help with this extra calories, jokes aside. But big up to all of you that's been in here. There's been so many people in the chat room. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everyone, for the moderators. Thank you, Jarvis, as well. It's been moderating here in the background. It's been going mad in the background. So sorry if I wasn't able to read all of you, but we hear you. We see you. Paul, my final conclusion is I do expect something within this week. But we've been saying, most of the people have been saying that, but barring that the window is opening, barring that the transaction can be completed, barring that you have to submit to the SEC, it can go very, very fast. Paperwork being signed.
Yeah, if there's a decision made any time between now and Wednesday, you could have the new owners in before the end of the month. It could go that quick. Yeah. I believe it will go that quick, but it just depends if they make a decision. At the end of the day, we just want them gone.
Cheers, everyone. What Sally is saying. Cheers, everyone. Mods, Paul, Mick, and also to all of you. Thank you, guys. Like what we always say in this community, just be nice to each other, be civil. Don't argue with each other on the socials. Be patient. If you manage to hold on for 18 years, what's more, a couple more days will not do you harm. So at least we're trying to provide you with some educational motion sickness pill. And I hope this really helps. So thank you, Paul, again, for coming together. It's been a hot minute. And guys, if you want to follow Paul, his Twitter handle is down right there. Paul, when can people find you? Unless you're not
just on Twitter. Twitter Spaces or just Twitter. I don't go anywhere else. Or here.
In Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Paul, sometimes you can see, we see each other sometimes on some joint spaces, which, by the way, has been, big up to the spaces guys. We're talking about Mike, Shawarma King. We're talking about Rez, Banks, all them, James, Chase, for keeping this going as well. It's been very educational platforms. There's been people coming in, listening, educating. So I have to give you guys a shout out as well, because, you've been warriors there as well. And Paul's been coming in there. I've been coming in speaking sometimes, but mostly listening as well. So big up, and tonight, by the way, I think it's 7 p.m. UK time. We have a special tonight. We're doing Kim Min Ye special with no other than John Shin from US. So we call it Manchester United Shimpad special tonight. So tune into that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be me and Jarvis Cocker. We're doing a little bit of a Shimpad special. And we're going to look at the Kim Min Ye and Hoyland and the latest link, which is who? The striker from Eintracht Frankfurt?
Oh, what was his name? I
Kolomenu?
forgot.
Kolomenu.
Oh, yes.
Kolomana.
Harry Kane. Give me Harry Kane.
We're going to look at...
Yeah.
No. We're going to look at why. We're going to look at the Barabing. We're going to look at why he wants these
I don't
strikers.
care. I don't care if he's only got 1 year left in his contract. I'm going to leave it at this. I would pay 100 million to get 30 Premier League goals a season from a Harry Kane. That is the difference between ending third and first.
We will go deep into why Koulibaly and why together with Rasmus Højlund later on, 7 o'clock UK time. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mix. Thank you, Barman. Good to see you from all the way from Canada. Love this community. Love, guys. What can we say? We always finish we had our say. Now we give you back the day, right? That's what we always finish with. Stay positive, stay beautiful, and don't fight with each other on the socials. Be patient, and hopefully good things will come. As we say, it should be coming something out, breaking out from the Rain Group and the Glazer itself on the club, that we have some development. But for now, it's almost done deal, according to my opinion. I cannot see any other way. It's been Mick Ruby here, Mufc Realist TV, and my brilliant guest, my colleague, my brother from another mother, Paul White. I hope you have a good day. Go and enjoy the sunshine, because here, where I am right now, it's beautiful, 25 degrees in Scandinavia.
Yeah, it's 22 here.
22. Guys, stay beautiful, and thank you for tuning in for podcasts. Smash that like, create awareness, green and gold, until we are finally sold. Always keep the pressure on. Big up to all of you. And as I said, we had our say. Now we're giving you back today. Please, bye for now. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching Mufc Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.